These are going to be some familiar faces to some of you, but let's start with some introductions. So let's go down to the very end. Sam, would you like to tell everybody sort of who you are and what markets you work in?
Sure. I'm actually reading this. My last name is misspelled. It's always the Italian thing that gets people.
They don't see it, so it's okay.
My name's Samantha DiBianchi. I own DiBianchi Real Estate down in South Florida. I also was the first female on $1 Million Listing Miami. And I'm happy to be here.
Great. Well, thank you for making the trip all the way across the country.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here too, honored to be invited. I'm Joyce Ray. I head up the Estates Division for Coldwell Banker Previews International in Southern California. I have been practicing real estate, I can't believe it, for 42 years.
I'm Justin Feichelson. I'm with Climb Real Estate Group here in San Francisco, and I'm on $1 Million Listing San Francisco, and honored to be here as well.
Woohoo!
Thank you for having me. I'm Donna Crowder. I'm former assistant manager of Coldwell Banker Previews International Pacific Heights office, and very happy to be here. Not quite 42, 38 years in the business.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. I told the panel backstage, I said, let's just pretend like we're out at the bar having a cocktail, sharing stories with one another at 9 o'clock in the morning. So having said that, yeah, it's actually vodka. Let me throw a rapid fire question at you to get started. Tell us your highest price listing you've ever sold and your lowest price property that you've ever sold. And Justin, you're shaking your head. I'm going to start with you.
Okay, 16 million, and then lowest, 710.
Okay, 710,000.
Yeah. That was a one bedroom above a garage.
Yes. All right then. Okay, Donna?
I sold the Ray Mansion on the Gold Coast in Pacific Heights for $28,500. And the lowest was, well, going back a long time, Joyce, what do you think? Probably in the teens, maybe 18,000 or something like that.
Okay. Joyce, how about you?
I think her memory is better than mine. Well, I do remember my first listing, which was $110,000, and the woman who gave me the listing told me her price was firm. So everyone that marched in the door, I announced that the price was firm. So I never sold the house and I lost the listing. But I recall my first sale, which was Christina Onassis's house, and it was $125,000.
Wow. Okay, and Sam?
My highest is $6.5 million, and my lowest is probably $250,000.
Okay. So the moral of that story is, regardless of where you are in the audience, you can hit all ends of the spectrum.
I forgot the highest, $50 million.
50 million. Okay. So let's chat then a little bit about that upper end and getting into those multi-million-dollar properties. What advice would you have for the audience out here in moving up that price range to get into that, what we call luxury market?
I think the biggest thing is really to involve yourself in the luxury world. If you really want to move from, let's say, $250,000 to $2 million, it's so important to be in that crowd and in that network. So join the memberships, go to those networking events, meet other agents that you can connect with and refer from. But also, aside from that, I think the way that you market yourself through social media, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, you have to portray the luxury market, not the $250,000 property. So that's what I would suggest.
So, Justin, you're fairly new to the real estate business. How
Yeah,
long have you been in the
about
business?
3.5 years, yeah.
3.5 years. So we know that you have an extensive network here in San Francisco that you kind of brought into the business.
Yeah.
But how do you do those things, as Sam says? How do you just go to the events? Like, how do I get invited?
Right. I mean, I do think what Sam said is really important. I think rather than look at something like Thursday is my networking event, or I'm joining this charity and I'm doing a networking dinner, you really have to live the lifestyle. I mean, I'm single. I'm not going home to a wife, or something, or family. But
that was a hint, ladies.
I can go out, 7 days a week, but really living the lifestyle. So my friends become my clients. And I think that they know that I have their back and that I'm a tough negotiator when it comes down to it. So they're automatically going to refer me to their friends. And then they also identify with me because I live the same lifestyle that they're living. So, and then how do you get into it? Well, it could start out by getting involved with a charity, meeting people. It's a small world. Even New York City is a small world. So you meet a couple people, and before you know it, you know 300 people in a month. So yeah, and just enveloping yourself in a lifestyle.
Okay. I think what else is important is when you meet these people, know what you're talking about. And that sounds very simple, but be prepared to answer any question because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the luxury buyer generally is a lot more educated, especially with sites like Realtor.com and stuff like that. You have so much out there. 90% of buyers look online, even that luxury clientele. So know what's around, know the inventory, and know how to explain that. So when you go to these events, you know what you're talking about.
I also find that real estate is everyone's favorite topic of conversation, certainly in Beverly Hills. And so knowing exactly what's happening, the latest major sale, the latest economic reports, what did the Federal Reserve say last week? What's Janet Yellen going to do in a few months? The more knowledgeable you are when you're talking to anyone, the more important it is. And plus the fact, I think, that when you choose these events or these groups or wherever it is that you try to establish yourself as a expert in the luxury field, you have to pick something that you really care about. I mean, it's got to be something that you're passionate about. For instance, for many years, I supported St. Joseph's Center for the Homeless in Venice, California. Well, when I discovered that there were over 3 million homeless in LA, and here I am selling these lavish houses, I was really upset about that, and I decided I would do something about it. So I, every year, had a birthday party, and I would pay for the birthday party, and I would invite all my friends. And they complained that they had to pay $150 to come to my birthday party, but I told them it's tax deductible, and by the time they bought me a present and took me out to dinner, it would cost them more than $150.
Very true. So, Donna, we often talk about, networking with the luxury buyer or seller, but there's a whole other component of that I know that you focus on.
Yeah, there is. Actually, I tend to come at the elite market from a knowledge base. So I tend to network with the lawyers, the accountants, the designers who work with these people. And for example, the Broadway listing was through the attorney. We actually competed for that listing, but we had a personal relationship with one of the partners of the law firm, which meant that I was in an experienced, trustworthy role. I had interacted with that person outside of the business environment in other, charitable organizations.
Okay. So we see a lot of events, and particularly, Sam and Justin, we see you guys on TV planning events as marketing tools to promote your listings and to network for other clients. So tell us all a little bit about some events and what don't we see happening on TV when you're doing these high-end luxury event, open house style, lavish parties that look like they're so much fun.
You don't see the behind the scenes and me going nuts and looking like the Hot Mess Express. That's just frantic, making sure everything is perfect at all times. It's definitely a lot of work, but it definitely pays off. So
we had a charitable event at the Ray Mansion for the Boys and Girls Club and the San Francisco Foundation. It was in the fall, so there was not the opportunity to bring it to the market in the Decorator Showcase. And we enlisted the help of a lot of people in the block in the Gold Coast who were interested in either one of the charities. And so we had a subcommittee, and it was, like you say, a lot of work. We tented the tennis court and had opera singer and a local symphony on the first night, and the second night we had a dance band. First night was sit-down dinner, the second night was buffet. But it's a lot of work to put on an event like that.
You
And a lot of
brought
money.
up
And a lot of money, actually. That's the one thing. If you're high-end commission at the end, you also are budgeting for a very extensive marketing plan.
And is there a rule of thumb for you? If it's a $5 million listing, is it a certain amount you'll put towards marketing on events? If it's 10 million, is it different? Is there a general rule that you could share with the audience?
I don't think there's a special rule, but in our area, they've gotten out of hand, I will tell you that. I mean, they have mermaids in the swimming pool. They have masseuses on the side. Honestly, it's true.
relax.
There's
You're
and they invite clients. I mean, people invite clients and they invite all the neighborhood.
It's a high-end amusement park.
If they're exactly, and these major constructions of $50 million and $70 million spec houses, you know, they want to expose it to a wide luxury audience as possible. So they pull out all the stops. And of course, on the other hand, on my $195 million house, I can't take an agent through, I can't have a party. It's only a qualified person coming through that house with their agent, and that is it.
That's right.
So that's the other end of the spectrum.
It is. Okay. Justin, what about your events? How do you approach them?
You know, I think it just depends on the property. I mean, 10 million plus is going to sit there longer, so it requires more creative marketing than, say, a $5 million house. I mean, if you're in Beverly Hills or San Francisco, you know, 3 to 5 million is kind of a staple. It doesn't mean a mansion. So, you know, does it require an amusement park party? Definitely not, no.
I enjoyed the walking tour. Did anybody watch the episode where you did the walking tour around the neighborhood? That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's creative.
It was creative. It was creative, for sure. We touched a little bit on social media. So let's circle back to that. You know, I know some of you use video a lot. I know you each have your own sort of probably favorite social media platform. So Joyce, let's start with you. What's your favorite social media platform that you like?
Well, I'm crazy about Instagram. First of all, it's visual, it's great for our business, and it's quick. And I've developed a real passion for photography. Not that I take the pictures of the houses, that I don't do, but in terms of the personal aspect of Instagram, I do take pride in a lot of the photographs that I personally take and post.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with what Joyce said. I think Instagram is amazing because it's visual, it's it's creative. Yeah, I use Instagram every day, I'd say.
We do a lot of Facebook because we're, our friends are in that milieu and also our colleagues.
Okay. Sam, what about you?
I would say that Instagram definitely is a favorite, but just like Justin, I've been in business for 4 years as of July. And I built my entire brand on Facebook. And I think the biggest thing with social media is you have to remember the social and social media. People will comment, people will ask questions, and I can't emphasize how many times I see a post, someone responds, and then the agent doesn't respond back. I mean, you need to engage with whoever's asking you questions because I've gotten so many clients from social media. So it's so important to really stay in touch and connect with these people.
Okay. So much like the lavish events and lavish parties that we're seeing so much in the high-end market, we're also seeing a lot of very lavish lifestyle video promotion happening. So how do you guys approach that in your business, and what advice would you have on using video to promote high-end properties?
I'm actually working on a luxury video right now, and a really good tip, something that I'm doing right now, which again, I look at how to use my marketing dollars to really get that luxury clientele. So I'm doing a luxury video or a lifestyle video on a project with a developer I do not have the listing to. He does not want to work with any listing agents right now, but I'm spending my money to promote his project and of course brand it with my company to show that I am that agent that will spend that money even without the listing. So I'm taking a risk, but I can still put it out there and advertise because it's a luxury project. So rather than spending, you know, the $10,000 in a magazine ad, why don't I make an amazing video and put it out there and show other sellers what I can do, hopefully bring some buyers to the project and gain that developer's trust for future business.
And Sam, what is your budget for that video?
That was $10,000.
It's $10,000? Okay.
But 10,000 and you have that video forever. You can use that in your listing appointments. You can use that for anything and everything.
I think I've been fortunate enough to have a few listings that are very prominent in the landscape where they are. So aerial or drone videos are very nice to show off exactly the context of the mansion and the setting.
Okay.
Also, 3D tours now of the house. I mean, it's becoming so advanced. I mean, so much of the marketing, I think, in general, is moving to online. So it goes back to the Instagram thing. You can show, it's free advertising online to an unlimited audience. So really transitioning from traditional print media for sure.
You know, the videos have really gotten, that's another thing that's gotten out of hand. I mean, depending on the price of the property, you have to employ models and, you know, all sorts of people to be part. On my $195 million listing, that video took 4 days, a full-time shoot with a director, a producer. I mean, I thought I was in a movie. So, you know, this is, and plus it's time-consuming. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's kind of the way of the world. I think you can't avoid it to a large extent. But then you have the clients that want complete privacy and absolutely will not let you come in the door for fear their piece of art is going to appear online or whatever. Or you can't even photograph the interior of the house, period. So you have every gradation. The main thing is you've got to please your seller and do what they want.
But I think it's also important, and you would, I'm sure, agree, when it comes to video and all this marketing, it's great to have all the different avenues, but at the same time, you have to leave a little something for the buyer to want to actually go into the property, because sometimes, especially with social media and online, people can go on and they make their own assumptions of what the property is. So they're like, oh, I don't like it. But you know, pictures, videos, there's nothing like somebody going into a home and feeling the energy and understanding the property from the agent. It kind of takes away that much more from the agent now. So, you know, going back to the social media and online is great, but you have to make sure you get those clients in the door, because that is, at the end of the day, what you want to do, and you can close the sale.
With them.
We had a wonderful video that actually showed up on CNN, so it was quite extensive. I had people from back east call and say, Donna, you were on CNN. But the opposite is very true. When you have a vacant property, that's easy enough to do. But the Tobin Clark estate in Hillsborough that we co-listed and sold was just the opposite. You could not get in the door, and that was, you had to use a lot of ingenuity to market that property.
Okay. What are your predictions on the market over the next 12 months? What do you think is going to happen out there in the market?
Well, I think in San Francisco we're in a unique position, but I think we're going to increase by 13 to 15%, 10 to 15% versus 25 or 30%. I think rates will raise a little bit, but I think the main urban centers, New York, LA, San Francisco, Austin, Denver, I think that they're going to continue to go up, quite frankly, just demographically speaking.
Okay.
We're inexpensive for an international city.
Okay.
And the tech center. So.
I always temper everything I say in terms of predictions as no one has a crystal ball.
That's correct.
And the minute I start saying it's this, then it turns out to be that. But I actually had a deal I made yesterday where the buyers were from, where were they? Kuwait. And they said that their Swiss bankers told them that there was going to be a big adjustment in the U.S. markets in December. So for whatever that's worth, I don't know. I said, really? That doesn't seem right. But help me make the deal.
Let's hope that doesn't happen. But if it does, we heard it here first.
Yeah.
Sam, what about you? What do you think is going to happen in the market?
I mean, we've still seen some upward trends, but generally speaking, the luxury market stays relatively stable. So hopefully that will still maintain and continue on.
It's discretionary spending.
Mm-hmm. At the end of the day,
homes.
There's always an opportunity to make money in real estate. You just have to understand where the voids are and follow the market, but there's always an opportunity to sell.
And I've had some of my best years in the worst down market.
True.
Right.
So,
Okay.
you can never have any fear.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming and sharing your stories and your insights with us. Let's give them a round of applause.